What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. We are on episode 78, and I feel like every week the number 100 continues to get painted in my head a little bit clearer.
I can't wait for that 100. You know what I mean? It's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's always, for us, milestone episodes where it's 10 and then 25 and then 50 and then 52 was a big one, obviously being the full year. And I don't know, you don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's still kind of astonishing that we've come this far and continue to make episodes. And what's even more, I guess, unreal to me is the fact that people listen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not surprised that we're making episodes still, because you and I are pretty convicted and pretty stubborn, for lack of a better word, where if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do something. Right. But it's the fact that a lot of it's not going to waste, because I feel like we have a pretty big listenership. At least that's what it seems like from the feedback we get.
It's so weird, too. It's been a minute since somebody says, hey, I listened to your podcast, to me. Mm-hmm. For a while anyway, especially since I switched gyms, 6 or 8 months ago. But I was doing my garden, and I had to run a Tractor Supply to get some cattle panel and stuff. And I backed down into their yard where all that stuff is outside, and the kid helps me. He gets off the forklift, helps me load the thing up, and he's leaning on my tailgate. He says, Chasing Dreams, is that the Coach D's podcast? And I was like, yeah. He's like, are you the guy that's on there with him? I'm like, yeah, I'm the other guy. And he was like, you guys are awesome. I listen to that all the time. He's my wrestling coach. He's awesome. I'm like, yeah, Coach is awesome.
That's really cool, because for me, it's meaningful when people say that, when anybody says that, obviously. We've talked before about how impactful compliments can be, even just the basic ones. But I feel like, I don't want to say it's more impactful, because I value everybody's opinion as equal, no matter who you are. But there's just a little bit of an extra kind of spice, so to speak, when it's someone you don't know, too.
Right.
Who says, hey, I listen to your podcast all the time, and that person comes up and introduces you. Because that was kind of, I grew up in sports, and then after I transitioned out of sports, per se, that's when I got interested in bodybuilding, because I needed a competitive avenue, And when I got into bodybuilding, a lot of it was online. Online forums, the web forums where you would post and network and talk with people. And bodybuilding.com had a really big forum where we would all chat. And it's funny, because I met so many people online that you had followed for a long time that you actually felt like you knew. Mm-hmm. When bodybuilding podcasts were real big, I would listen to them, and I felt like I had so much insight into people's lives, because I would listen to them regularly, that you feel like you're actually one of them.
Right.
And it was so cool to see the online community that, I became a part of when I first started getting interested in bodybuilding, in early college and late high school, early college. And, I was actually in someone's wedding, I was not in the wedding as part of the wedding party, but I got invited to a wedding for, another bodybuilder that we had grown up through our, late teen, early 20 years networking online and talking on web forums. And he actually invited me to his wedding down in Memphis.
That's cool.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
So it's really cool how the digital world opens us up to feel like we're kind of connected to people. Not that my life is that interesting or that people really care about it, but it is cool how I feel like I can give people a little bit of insight and they feel like they know me without actually physically meeting me.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And, we talk about her a lot on every episode, but with Shannon, when we had Shannon Nora on, I had no idea, never met her in my life, never even heard of her. And then we had her on the podcast, and her story's amazing. And now it's literally, if we don't talk about training or just life in general on a at least semi-daily basis, it's weird. And it's all through social media. So the electronic world does have its ups, for sure.
And I know that I'm one of those people that always talks about the negatives and the downfalls and the drawbacks of it.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, especially being a teacher, because there's pros and cons to it. And so you see both sides of the coin. But it kind of segues into something that I was thinking about today as kind of a small topic that I felt was worth mentioning, is how much opportunity we have nowadays to be successful.
Right.
So the podcast, we always talk about being successful. And I feel like in today's society, and the way that the world is connected now, and the way that how open and freed it is, I feel like people in today's generation have more of an opportunity to be successful than any other generation in history.
I would have to agree.
Because a myriad of things. So the first thing that popped in my mind was the digital connectivity of all of us, where, you look at these YouTube stars who are just posting silly videos,
right,
and some of them make literally millions of dollars just to post YouTube videos, which is fascinating to me that someone can do something so simple and it can become so lucrative for them.
Yeah, like lucrative's the word. That internet content creators for on all the platforms.
Yeah,
there's millionaires.
Sure,
guys, when we were kids, would be considered nerds for hanging out on their phone all day or in front of a screen in their mom's basement, are like physically becoming millionaires because of like the internet.
And then even if you don't have a direct stream of revenue from the digital world, how connected you are with resources.
Yeah.
Like I talked about with the bodybuilding thing, I said networking because I'm meeting with, other bodybuilders who share a similar passion. We're talking about nutrition and training and supplementation, all those things that go together. So you're kind of like having these daily conversations with them and you're learning. It's a space to, number one, to learn, and then also to form relationships and connections with people that you may need down the road at some point for help with something.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have met so many people that are, I don't want to use the term famous kind of loosely, especially in the bodybuilding paradigm, because it's such a small community and it's very close. But I've met people online that I would consider somewhat famous there and, formed a relationship with them and talked to them. And then, there you go. Like Aaron Singerman's one that comes to mind, the CEO of Redcon One, met him online and it actually, coincidentally enough, started following him when he was with previous employers, not supplement companies, but bodybuilding media platforms. And he had a couple podcasts that he would host. And Aaron Singerman was the first person that got me into listening to podcasts. That's before, podcasts were big. And that was before Joe Rogan, who is kind of the gold standard for podcasts going forward, it seems like now, especially financially.
Right.
But, I was kind of privy to the whole podcast world because of him. And, met him online, and now I'm affiliated with the company and have worked, the Redcon booth at different events like the Arnold Classic and all that stuff. So it's amazing the opportunities. It just, more and more pop in my head. Like even the coach that I work with now, my bodybuilding coach, I met online. You makes me wonder what my life would be like if I didn't have, digital media as a platform for me to connect with people.
I agree 100%. And it's weird, like, to think about, like, I can remember when I first got my first job. I was looking through the classifieds in our town where it's called the Bargain Hunter, around where we live. I don't even know if it's a thing anymore, but it was a weekly magazine basically, and people would list things for sale or classifieds for work. And that's where I found my first, like, 3 jobs was in the Bargain Hunter. And now I wouldn't even know how to find a job. Yeah. Like, because I've worked for so long and now the technology's, like, a thing. I don't even know how do you search a job on the internet?
Well, and you have, like, sites that, you can, like Indeed, where there's different sites where employers can search for employees and employees can search for employers. So it kind of goes both ways.
And that's like a new thing now, like where employers are looking for employees, right?
I mean, hopefully I'm not dating myself. I don't know if this is outdated at all, but remember Monster?
Yeah.
Like that was to my estimation, or at least as far as I can recollect, that was like the first thing that was made online for people to find jobs. Right. Was Monster Inc. Or Monsters Inc.'s the movie. Maybe it wasn't Inc. But it was Monster or Monster.com or whatever it was.
I can't even remember. Like, I've never, like, had to search for a job. So, like, God forbid I have to look for a job. I'd be calling somebody, some 18-year-old kid to help me find a job.
Well, even the way that you meet in a relationship status. Yeah. So, with dating sites, and not only dating sites, but I think the best dating site is probably Instagram or Facebook, because the number of people, I would say you would be amazed, but you probably wouldn't. The number of people that I've talked to, and I don't know why it's been popping up so frequently. I don't know if it's a generational thing and it's just kind of the way of the world now. Maybe I'm just more cognizant of it because I've been paying attention to how much opportunity we have because of the world we live in, primarily with, the internet. Yeah. But it seems like a lot of people, when I ask, how did you guys meet? Did you meet in college? Did you meet in high school? Did you meet in adulthood? Did you meet at work? It
And I
seems like
would
the overbearing answer that I
Facebook.
get is Facebook, Instagram,
Yep.
whatever.
I would have to. I mean, it's crazy to hear the amount of people like that you said. Like you said, I met her on Facebook, and now we're getting married. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
I can remember having to meet your significant other in person.
Mm-hmm.
By happenstance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's crazy.
I think that the opportunity thing kind of transcends the digital world. I think that's just a pretty obvious, talking point that we can point to and say, look how much opportunity we have. But I think there's opportunity.
Gyms.
Okay, take training.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because that's something that most of our listeners have a commonality with, at least to some degree.
Right.
It's a fitness podcast,
right?
In a sense, is the amount of knowledge that's out there, the amount of gyms that are out there. You can find a gym. I mean, the little town that we're in right now has, several gyms.
Several, yeah. And it's weird, like when we were kids, around here especially, because I know you're not from around here. When we were kids, though, like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, there was maybe 2 actual, like, commercial gyms.
Yeah.
And then the other one, the biggest gym that everybody used around here was actually a motel gym.
Mm-hmm. The Motor Lodge.
The Motor Lodge.
Now, never was afforded the opportunity to go there because
man,
it had already been, but I heard crazy stories.
Oh, man, it was the best.
It sounded like an awesome place.
The meathead gym in this town.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now,
sure.
and now there's like literally like almost physically one on every block. In every little like section or every township in this area, there's like a legit functional gym.
And then not only like with the gym space, but think about also your knowledge that you have going into the gym space.
Yeah.
Like think about how much more knowledge we have on training and nutrition and supplementation than we did 5, 10, 15, 20, 30,
right.
50 years ago. I mean, It's unreal that it keeps evolving. And I feel like I've said before that we kind of have this training at least narrowed down or nailed down to the point where there may not be a ton more training advancements, but lo and behold, there always are new studies coming out that say that this type of training or this methodology seems to point to being a little bit better than another or whatever. So it's always expanding. And then I also think about things that are fitness related or health related, performance related.
Yeah.
It would be a better term. So one of my very good friends who I spoke with earlier today, who's actually a former roommate of mine in college, lives out in Arizona, like Phoenix, Glendale area. And that is an area where there's a large stress put onto how you look and how you perform. I mean, it's a warm weather state, obviously. So naturally, you're going to have people that have less clothes on.
Right.
So I feel like physical fitness and health are stressed a little bit more in those types of areas, especially larger cities like Phoenix or whatever. And it's amazing the resources that he has at his fingertips, because he could come out of a gym, go and train at a top of the line, world-class facility in a gym, walk out. Next door would be, a smoothie bar with like protein shakes and health smoothies or whatever. And then next to that, he could go get a full meal at, a boutique or a cafe that is specifically
designed to healthy.
Yeah. With healthy organic foods or whatever. And then you have, grocery stores that fall in that like as well. Yeah. And then you have, a chiropractor next door, and you have a deep tissue massage therapist next door to that. It's like within 2 blocks, you could get essentially every little resource or kind of step towards becoming a successful bodybuilder or fitness enthusiast or whatever. And it's right there for you.
Yeah.
And I think that is truly miraculous. Not only that we know how much all these things help, but then you could have them all within 10 feet of each other.
At your fingertips.
It's unreal. Yeah.
And if you don't have one by, for some miraculous reason that you can't find one just by driving around, all you have to do is look on Google.
Yeah.
Near me. Chiropractor near me. And they'll all list pops up, and it's like there's no thought process. Like I like what you were saying, like the success thing. Like I think people that like, and I'm not trying to like point fingers, but like people that don't have any level of success at all, it's just lack of effort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's that's like a bold statement to make, but like seriously, like, because success is weighted, based on your goals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just lack of effort because it's everything. There's so much work. There's so many jobs available. There's so many opportunities to learn. Heck, you don't even have to step foot in a classroom anymore. My wife's getting her bachelor's degree as a nurse. Going from her associates to her bachelor's degree, and she's never going to go into a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
She never sat down with an admissions instructor person. Nothing like that. It was like all through email and then one phone call, and now she's in her bachelor's degree. Like, there's so many opportunities. Like, you don't have to leave your house.
And I think that when you talk about people, like you said, if you're not achieving some degree of success, then it's almost predicated entirely on you just being lazy and not wanting it.
Yeah.
And even if because that word success is highly subjective from person to person, of course. So you could even get rid of that word and you could throw progress in there.
Yeah.
If you're not progressing in some area of your life that you want to progress in, that is completely on you with the way that, our society and our infrastructure is set up for you. I mean, like, you can find anything, you can meet anyone. It's truly miraculous, I think, that I can go online and there's people that are so accessible.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I've really, tried to do myself is when people DM me on Instagram, because that's the social media platform that I use almost entirely. But when people message me and ask me questions, I really try to make a conscientious effort to answer them, not only just quickly, but like I want to be thorough.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many people growing up that I looked up to that helped me and they were accessible. Like I could, message, now the higher caliber of the person, the more unlikely you are to get a response just because of sheer volume of messages. I mean, there's people that get probably hundreds and tens of thousands of messages every day. But I think it's so cool because there have been some that have like reached back to me and answered some of my questions, which for me, especially as a younger kid, what more could you ask for than somebody that you look up to sending you like a message back, like specifically to you.
Yeah. And it's not like a blanket statement. It's
it's not
a tailored answer to you.
So I try to kind of
do the same,
mimic that gesture and return the favor for people. Not that I would consider myself a high caliber person that's getting a high degree of traffic into their inbox that people are trying to get a hold of, but you get the analogy or the reference that I'm just trying to kind of replicate that. But it's just so neat to me how everything is accessible. Everyone is accessible. And I feel like, kind of to go back to the point that you alluded to earlier, there's really, excuse the name cliche here, but there's no excuse to not be good or get better at something that you want to get better at, because you definitely have the knowledge, because the knowledge is accessible. You, for all intents and purposes, probably have the equipment or resources to the equipment. No, and I'm not just talking specifically gym equipment. I'm talking
everything,
whatever equipment that you would need for your particular area of expertise or area of desired expertise that you want to get better at. It's all right there. There's nothing that you can't have other than the work that you need to put into it.
It's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. Like, you just have to want it, and then when you want it, you have to make the decision to use those channels, use those avenues for help to get what you want. Lean on the people that need to be leaned on, and then do the work.
Yeah.
And that's just it, really. Like, so like it's like super easy. Like, this, to have a success-based podcast, right, is super easy because it's like it's all right there. Like, this ain't 1950 where to become an upper echelon successful person, you have to grind and grind and grind,
or maybe know people.
That's where you have to know somebody to get somewhere came from. Is knowing somebody to become successful, or being born into, money, or, your dad's, Henry Ford. You know what I mean? Like, then people are automatically going to be successful. Like, you don't have to have that today. Like, I mean, look at me. Like, I'm just, just a hillbilly from Ohio, and I'm not successful. I'm not saying I'm successful, but like, some people say I'm successful at things. There's things that you can be successful. You don't have to be like the upper echelon person of something, to be considered successful.
There's something that you can take ownership of and say, hey, I accomplished this. Everybody has something that they can accomplish or to some degree or some level of achievement.
Right.
And I think that the internet and the way that our world is set up just kind of expedites that for people.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good moment for us to go to a quick commercial break. So when we come back with our break, we'll talk about training updates because we kind of didn't really even get into that.
Yeah, let's do that.
So let's go to commercial and we'll talk about some training stuff when we come back.
As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram and order your delicious baked goods today because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well.
And we are back from our commercial break. All right, so prior to the commercial break, we kind of went on this big tangent about how easy success is. Ironically, considering we have a podcast that is talking about how difficult it is to achieve success and us trying to figure it out and navigate it.
One last thing on that, I guess. I know we're going to go into talking about training and stuff, but like we say that it's super easy to become successful. I think we're saying that because it's easy as long as you put in the work.
I think it's easy to get the tools, but once you have the tools, you have to build the house.
Use them. Yeah, you have to do the work. Like nothing's going to be handed to you, but everything's right there at your fingertips. Like there's no beating down the pavement. Like, you know, I've heard stories of kids that started delivering newspapers on foot when they were kids, and then ended up owning the newspaper company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put miles and miles and miles and miles on their shoes before they were even hit puberty. That is hard. You don't have to do that anymore. Like there's so many opportunities now. I think that's where we were going with.
Yeah, it really takes the trial and error out of things.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just have to, know what you want and then look it up, and like it's literally a click of a button. Look it up and it tells you exactly how to do it. You just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
for sure.
So I mean, I guess it was just weighing on me because like, to say, success is easy and then how hard it is all at the same time is kind of like a double negative. But it is. It's just a matter of doing the work. There's not going to be a lack of hard work involved.
Yeah.
But if you want to be successful, you want to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
So
for sure. So how's training going for you?
This week, terrible.
Non-existent.
Non-existent.
Some back issues, right?
Horrible back pain. I went to my chiropractor on Monday. I got to work. So back up, we talked last week how I had a pretty cool training coming up with the pay department in our town, fire department. So that training was incredible. Sunday morning, I woke up and my back was in like my lower back, like lumbar area was really sore. And like, I couldn't get out of bed.
Now, could you discern between like a spinal issue or just muscle tissue soreness, like in your erectors? Because some people can't do that. Like they say, I have that all the time when we train movements that are meant to strengthen the lower back. Your lower back's going to hurt because of the delayed onset muscle soreness, or the tissue there gets sore. And people say, I can't deadlift because it hurts my back.
Yeah.
Well, I think that a lot of them kind of misconceive that and they think, my back or my spine hurts. It's your muscle hurting every time after you deadlift because the muscle's sore like it should be.
Right. So this is the way I try to explain it to people because I'm still sore, like still really sore. So I try to explain it this way. If I can still do everything that I'm trying to do, it's muscles. If it's spinal, right, your body like won't let you. Like when you walk with your hips tucked back, your shoulders rolled in, and you can't, like, you have to stand up by squatting your knees and straightening really slow. That's spinal.
And there could be nerve involvement as well, so you're going to know.
There's an issue there. So with this, with like the pain I've got right now, I think it's just my muscles finally being able to relax, and because it's slowly starting to go away. But I get out of the truck, I can stand up out of bed, I can bend over and tie my shoes. But Sunday morning, none of that.
Yeah,
like. I had to like hook my pants, my sock onto my foot. You know what I mean? Like it was terrible. And I went to I went to work Monday because I have to go to work. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. So I went to work and I ended up having to leave early. And I called my chiropractor and I said, hey, I know I have an appointment on Wednesday. Is there any way I can come in today? And she's like, why? What's going on? I talked to her through it and she's like, yeah, absolutely come in. She's like, I think this sounds like an issue we had before. So I went in and she's like, man, you're messed up. My right leg was an inch shorter than my left. So she got me all aligned and everything felt pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
She said my pubic bone was out, which is, for a man, it's an uncomfortable adjustment, not to say the least. And so she adjusted it, and I went home, and I was better,
Better, yeah.
So I went to work Tuesday. I got up Tuesday morning, and it was worse. And I was like, oh no. And so, mind you, she adjusted me Monday. I went and picked my baby up from the babysitter and took her to the park, and we went for a walk. And I got like one lap around the track, and was like, it was bad again. So I was like, man, I can't even do I couldn't even walk. Like, it was terrible. So Tuesday, went to work, same process. It took me like 45 minutes to get dressed. I limped my way through about 3/4 of a day at work and had to call it quits and go home. Went to the chiropractor again. And she's like, I don't know. She was starting to get concerned that there was an issue because she's adjusting it. It's going back. Everything's good. And then an hour later, it's bad again. So she says, let's do it again and see what it does. And because I had an appointment on Wednesday. So she adjusted me again, and it was better, and it held a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
So Wednesday morning comes, and I got dressed fine. First time I got out of my truck, it was bad again. Called her up and said, hey, I need an appointment again. So I went in, Wednesday morning. I literally got out of my pickup, and that's when it was bad again. Like, I was in her parking lot. I was good until I got inside. And she was like, you said you were better. And I'm like, I know, but I'm not now. So she adjusted me again, and she said, I tell you what, just come back tonight, right before I close, and we'll see if how it is. And it was terrible. And so here's the kind of the bad part, right? So she says, I have a question, and I don't know how to ask it. And I'm like, I know, I lost a lot of weight. I was thinking the same thing. My belly, my extra skin is tucked into my pants, right? And she's like, I think that all that extra padding, the activator's not getting to your pubic bone. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think it is either, and she says, can you pick it up? I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Whatever it takes, like, I'll do anything to get this fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So she adjusted it, and I am like, when I say instant relief, I've never felt instant relief until that adjustment.
That's awesome.
Because now I'm fine. Like I said, I still have pain, but it was out for 5 days. Out really bad for 5 days. So, the muscle pain's still there, but, I can do everything. I planted my garden today. Everything's good. So, I hopefully back to the gym starting Monday.
And usually, because I've had this conversation with a couple people that have talked to me recently about my hamstrings. I injured my hamstring, gosh, probably 2 months ago now, maybe?
Yeah.
Has it been 2 months?
I bet about a month.
And I talk to these people, and they always ask how the hamstring is. And I said, the hamstring feels great, but I'm cautiously, very slowly working my way back because that's when people get hurt. Most people don't get hurt when they feel pain because they avoid it. I know that if my back hurts, I'm not going to do anything that hurts my back. So I'm very, very cautious and kind of tiptoe my way around certain activities or whatever. Whereas with, the hamstring, it's the same thing. If my hamstring's in pain, I'm not going to bend over quickly. I'm not going to do any excessive jumping or sprinting movement. I'm going to avoid everything that I think, has potential to probably hurt it or aggravate that pain.
Right.
So as things started feeling better over the course of a couple weeks, that's when I don't want to say ran into more problems, but that's when I would hurt it more readily because of the fact that I wasn't as cautious. So I would bend down to pick up a water bottle, not thinking, because my hamstring feels fine. And on the way down, I would stretch my hamstring a little too much, and then it would grab and it would hurt,
Right.
So whenever you're coming back from an injury, I think that you need to set parameters and boundaries for yourself as far as what you can do, because that when you take that governor off, that's when there's real potential to get hurt. So it was the same thing with me with the hamstring when I started squatting again, because I didn't squat for, several weeks, upwards close to 2 months, or thereabouts at least. And I started squatting again, and I told myself, okay, I'm only going to go up to 135. That was my restriction.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't have the best babysitters in the world, and I myself am certainly not going to be a great babysitter. So instead of stopping at 135, I went all the way up to 275 and hit it for a single, and it felt pretty easy. I had no pain, but the one thing I noticed is there was a little bit of mental avoidance there. What I was doing was I wasn't like sitting back and loading my hamstring as much as I normally would, and I could felt myself not using my hamstrings when I squatted.
Right.
And I said, okay, that's a sign that mentally it's kind of still in the back of my head. Next week, which was last week, comes around, and I did 275 for a triple, and I didn't avoid loading the squat properly.
Okay.
So I loaded it with not heavy weight, but heavy enough where if there's something still wrong with my hamstring, I'm going to know it when I'm, squatting 300 pounds or thereabouts. So training on my end is kind of, it's almost like I'm where you're at, but just a little bit of a step ahead.
Yeah.
We're coming off of an injury and I'm back in it now, but I just have to be a little bit more conscientious of how I do things going forward.
Yeah. It was such a bad pain. I couldn't even do like a push day.
Yeah.
I couldn't push. I couldn't pull. Couldn't squat. Anything. Because I was going to go to the gym on Monday. Like, my goal was to go in the morning. I woke up to go to the gym, and that's when it took me all morning to get up out of bed and get going.
Yeah.
And then I talked to my training partner and said, let's go this evening. And then when I went to the chiropractor, I was like, maybe, and I went for a short walk, and it was like, party's over. I couldn't go.
It's so funny when you're a meathead who's very like invested in the gym, how everything is like hanging in the balance when you're navigating your way through an injury.
Yeah.
Like, especially like if something happens to me where I get hurt, instantly the only thing I think about is the gym.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how bad is this? And how long is it going to keep me out of the gym? And then as you're kind of detective working your way through it, saying, okay, what's wrong? How does it hurt? Is it bad enough where I need to go get it looked at by a doctor?
Right.
You kind of self-assess your way through things, and constantly it's like, okay, can I go to the gym? Or maybe I shouldn't. You're kind of in limbo where you're not really sure. And it's amazing how something so trivial as going to the gym, especially something that I think probably most people take for granted, at least occasionally. Suddenly when you get hurt, that's all you want to do. Like, I was talking to the guys at the gym and I said, squatting is my favorite exercise. So I never really take it for granted, but you don't know how much you miss it.
Right. When you
can't do it.
Absolutely.
And that goes with anything in life, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's like with the surgery I need to have in my wrist. I think I'd make more progress on pushing and pulling if I would just get it fixed, take the 8 to 10 weeks to recover, and then get back after it. But that 8 to 10 weeks, there is no way that my brain can allow me to not go to the gym for 8 to 10 weeks.
Dude, that's me, man. I did the same thing with hernia surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
I had hernias that I had to get taken care of, and I continued to put it off for literally for years. And it wasn't necessarily just the gym, but I thought, the gym progress, that was a huge part of it.
Right.
But then I thought, would I have to be off of work? Would I have to be off of this or that? And I was like, I'm just going to keep putting it on the back burner until I need it. Well, then came the point where I actually needed it, and then I had to do it. And the recovery process was, painful initially, like the first couple of days after the surgery, but then my progression after that was so smooth and so quick that I was mad at myself for not doing that 4 years earlier. It's like, why did I continue to put this off?
Right. Well, like with mine, it's literally as long as I can handle the pain. It's not like life threatening. It's not like life altering. It's just literally a not a dull. It's a severe ache all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like I can handle it. I'm good. I don't care. And it does affect things, but with wrist wraps and stuff, it's like I just get over it. I just get by.
And I feel like to some degree, there's always going to be something that you have to Band-Aid up, so to speak. And I think that that's kind of an analogy for life, to be honest, where you're never going to be in the perfect circumstantial situation where everything's going to align and everything's going to go perfect. Like, take training, for example. If you're trying to make progress towards a fitness goal, and you get the flu and you feel sick and you lose a bunch of progress because you're out of the gym for 2 weeks and you feel miserable and you lose a bunch of weight if you're trying to gain it, or you gain a bunch of weight if you're trying to lose it.
Yeah.
And that frustrates you. And then you say, okay, as soon as this is over, everything's going to be perfect and I'm going to be back in. And then something arises and there's a family situation that emotionally stresses you for a week or 2 or 3 or 4. So then you have to deal with that, and you know you're making suboptimal progress because in your mind you're constantly stressing about this thing. And you say, man, this stress is really killing my gym time. But as soon as I get over this and this issue gets resolved, then I'm going to be back in the gym and it's good. And then, you pull a muscle.
Yeah.
And, you have something wrong with your back. And then you have to leave town because of work. And then the training circumstances are never going to be perfect for you.
Right.
And I feel like if you continue to try to go and wait till these things get cleared up and wait till the path is perfect in order to run it, you're never going to start running.
Yeah.
It's almost like there are certain things that you just have to get over and deal with it. And I'm not saying that from an injuries perspective necessarily, because a lot of times that's how people get hurt even worse, is because they say, oh, I can work around this. And then lo and behold, something catastrophic happens.
Either something else or they further that injury.
Yeah, but I think that in life it's important to kind of, when you start looking at the progress you want to make, understanding like the old cliche, diet starts Monday.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be perfect to start on Monday, so you might as well start now, which is kind of a theme that we've been hammering home for weeks now.
70 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, 70 plus weeks of saying if you're going to start now.
Yeah, it's the day to start is yesterday.
Yeah.
So get after it. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like the moment the thought comes in your mind, hey, I did something, I'm doing something wrong, I need to get it done, I need to figure it out, do it. Like, figure it out. Even if it's just making a step towards that. Even if you've been involved in a huge, let's just stick to the fitness world. You've been on a huge fitness journey, right? And you make a significant step back. Once you recognize that step back, it's time to go.
Yeah.
It's time to put your foot back on the throttle and go.
And we talked about that, I believe it was last week, where I was saying that I had some discussions that had led me to understand the importance of not looking back at the progress you didn't make, because that's restricting you from making progress in the first place.
It's really where I'm at now.
Like, you can look back and say, gosh, I wasted all this time where I felt like I was working hard, but I wasn't working hard enough to make progress, and I wasted 2 years and my bank account didn't go up at all. Or, I didn't get any better as a bodybuilder, or I didn't lose any fat like I wanted to, or whatever it was. But if you continue to like kind of wallow in that and let it consume you, like Dr. Ryan told me when I was at his house a couple of weeks ago, he said, and for those of you that don't know, Dr. Ryan is a friend of the show who is my chiropractor and, business partner for all intents and purposes. And we had him on an earlier episode and got a lot of good insights on success from him. But one of the things that he would tell me is that people who are successful are so hyper-focused on the forward mentality and eyes ahead that they're going to make mistakes. There are going to be periods of time, both short and long, where progress is not made. But they don't even, that doesn't even, enter their mind, because they're still so focused on going forward. Like, I think there's some opportunity for self-assessment where you kind of need to step back and look in the rearview mirror and say, okay, how much progress have I made? Is it enough? Should I be making more? Because that kind of dictates where you're going. But for the most part, eyes need to be ahead for sure.
Well, that's part of being eyes up, though, is scheduling time to reflect on the journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Schedule a time, even if it's once a month or once a year.
Or like for me, I do it once a week with my coach, and my clients do it a little bit more frequently than that, but they do have, a mandatory update that they have to do on a weekly basis where it's, hey, how did this week go? What happened? Let's look in reverse and see how we did, and then we can adjust going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So like making that looking back is not the worst thing as long as you're doing it scheduled.
Yeah.
It's like scheduled maintenance on our car.
I like that.
We don't drive our cars until they fall into, some of us drive our cars until they fall into the ground. But those of us that don't ever have a catastrophic breakdown, it's because we do scheduled maintenance.
Yeah.
That's
Get your
why
oil change when you're supposed to.
go to the chiropractor when you don't need to necessarily. Like,
take an off day from the gym when it's necessary.
It's scheduled maintenance.
Yep.
It's not a break. You know, I recently had a catastrophic breakdown in my. I wish this was video. You know, the air quotes in my car. Right. It was, you know, not a catastrophic breakdown. I guess I don't know how to word it, because having a child is not a horrible thing. Right.
Yeah.
But, and it's not even just her. It was COVID. It was, you know, I got comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I think comfortable is the main culprit, because even though I've gained some weight, I'm still comfortable in doing things. Like, I can still go for a long hike, long jog if I wanted to. I can still get it done in the gym. I'm still getting down at work. You know, everything's still great. So, like, I'm still too comfortable.
Yeah.
I realized that. It's time to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
so,
then
like,
becomes, you know, no eyes in the rearview mirror.
Absolutely. I'm breaking that son of a gun off.
Yeah.
Until my coach, with the eyes looking to the right here, tells me it's time to look in the rear view. But until then, I'm taking it off. I'm dismounting it. It's time to go.
I like it, man. Yeah. I think that's a good place to end it. I mean, we're right about our time frame anyway that we try to shoot for, because I know that I feel like if we ramble too much, probably get annoyed with us. People will. So
we'll update, you know, the new starting point next week.
Love it.
See where I'm at. I hate talking about it because it's not fun, but let's do it.
Awesome.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This has been episode 78. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoy your week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable.